Hello, and welcome to Part 8, Difficult Three-Corner Scenarios. In our last video, we looked at some situations that required two conjugates. And if that doesn't sound familiar, then you might want to click here to go back to Part 7. This video, like the previous video, is going to be mostly hands-on, giving you an opportunity to practice solving the cube in some of these scenarios that we've been looking at, particularly some of the more challenging scenarios that you're going to encounter. And by the end of this video, you might be thinking, geez, why is he making us go through all these different, situations? And the reason is because I want you to be able to handle anything that you come across, including some of these more difficult scenarios. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one I want to look at is this situation where you have three unsolved corners, and all three of them need orientation. Okay, so this is going to be different than all the other scenarios that we've looked at so far. Okay, first thing I want you to do is to create this situation on your cube. Okay, so simple enough. Take your cube. We'll hold it with red in the front, white on top, like we usually do. And what I want you to do is to twist these three corners to the right. Okay, and that will give you this situation. Okay, for those of you that have been keeping along, you've probably noticed that we've been able to solve all of our different scenarios so far using just one commutator. Okay, and what I mean is not just one commutator in the sense of it being the same commutator, but only having to perform that commutator one time to solve a three-corner scenario. This situation is different, because with all three corners being oriented incorrectly, we're actually going to need to do our commutator twice. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Basically, all of these pieces are in their correct location, right? But they need to be twisted, right? They need to be rotated in that spot. Rather than doing that, what I'm going to do is a commutator on the right side, just like we always do, which is going to move all these three corners out from where they are right now. Okay, and then we'll do a second commutator to solve them, to bring them back where they belong, but bring them back oriented correctly. Okay, so holding the cube like this, commutator on the right side. I'm going to do it kind of quickly because I think you guys are pros at this by now. That gives us a regular three-corner situation. Okay, looking at the cube, I see I have a white sticker on top that matches the white center. I know that's oriented correctly. Is it adjacent to where it belongs? It is. That tells me I can do a left side commutator. Okay? Also need to think about the piece that belongs here. You'll remember that's red. Here it is. Red needs to go to the front, and that's my only conjugate I need. Now I can go ahead and solve my cube using my commutator. And done. Okay? So that was a situation where we had three orientation problems, right? Three unsolved corners that all needed correct orientation. But you'll remember that all three of them were on the top. Let's look at a situation now where you're going to have two on top and one on the bottom. Okay? So again, let's take the cube. We'll give these two corners a twist to the right, like that. And then turn the cube with blue in the front, and let's give this corner a twist. This would be the blue, orange, and yellow. Give that a twist to the right also. Okay, double check your cube, make sure it looks like mine. Okay, and let's think about what we would do to solve this cube. Okay, when I first started working on this method, here's what I always did. I always did a conjugate to move this piece up top. Okay. And that would allow me to use my commutator on the right side to scramble or cycle these three corners around. Okay? Then I realized I can do this without a commutator, or without a conjugate. Let me put that back down. I can actually perform a left side commutator here, okay, with no conjugate at all. I'll just need to rotate this corner up here, okay, when the time comes. So let's do it. On the left side, 1, 2, 3. 4 is going to be moving this piece here. 5, 6, 7. and then 8 is going to be undoing it. And you'll notice that scrambles those 3 corners. Okay? Now I want to go ahead and solve the cube. Okay? I have a couple options here. I see that I have a white sticker here, which could be moved up top. That would allow me to perform a right side commutator. I would need yellow to go here, and look, it's already in the front. So I can solve the cube with just the one conjugate, just moving this corner up. 1, 2, 3. Rotate this one over, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then undo your conjugate, and you're done. Okay? So that's 2 different situations for having 3 orientation problems. Okay, hope that made sense, wasn't too difficult. And now we'll try to make things a little harder for you. Okay? If you have 2 Rubik's Cubes, go ahead and take them both out. Or if you have one somewhere else in the house, go find it. It'll be helpful if you have 2 cubes for this next one. On the first cube, we are going to create our basic starting position, which by now you know that means 2 commutators on the right side. So let's do it. Once, twice. Basic starting position. I think you should be very confident with this scenario now. You'll remember that I'm calling this the basic starting position because this is the one time, or one of the very few times, where you won't need a conjugate to solve it, right? We can solve the cube from this situation with 1 commutator and no conjugate, okay? On your other cube, oh, actually, no, let's go back. I want to talk about this one for just a minute. Again, this is our basic starting position. You should be very comfortable with this, okay? We have talked quite a bit about corners 1 and 3, okay? And we've said that we can solve the cube starting with corner 1, because this red, white, and blue corner is already oriented correctly and adjacent to where it belongs. You'll remember all that, I'm sure. Okay? We also talked about this third corner, and that this third corner is in the perfect location because the blue sticker is in front, and we know that blue sticker is going to wind up here. And that tells us no conjugate is needed because the blue is already in front. Okay? And I told you that because we are solving corners 1 and 3, we don't really need to think much about corner number 2. Because if you solve 2 of these 3 pieces, you'll automatically solve all 3 of them. Because it would simply not be possible to have just 1 unsolved corner, right? We could not solve the first corner and the third and have this one still bad. It just doesn't work, okay? So I haven't talked to you guys much at all about the second corner, but now it's time that we need to talk about it just a little bit, okay? Notice how the first corner rotates here, okay? It's as if I'm turning the top of the cube like that, right? You'll remember how this piece moves. This second piece moves like as if you're rotating the front of the cube. You'll notice now that that green, white, and red piece is solved there, okay? So it's as if we're turning the front of the cube like that, okay? That's going to be kind of important to remember. This piece is requiring permutation, right? It needs to go to a different spot, but it also needs orientation at the same time if you think about it, because the white sticker that's here needs to be up top. Let's say I move this piece here by rotating the top. Well, that wouldn't work, would it? I mean, this piece is in the right location, but I need the white sticker on top, so I can't do it that way. All right? So that's important to remember. This piece is moving here. It's requiring permutation and orientation. You can kind of think of it as a combination of the 2. All right, on your second cube, go ahead and grab your other cube. Hopefully you have a second cube. And what I want you to do with this cube is hold it so that you have blue in the front, okay? And with blue in the front, let's go ahead and do a left side commutator. And by now I am hoping that you have become pretty confident with the left side commutator. I'll do it again a little bit slowly, just in case you're not 100% confident with it. But that's what your cube will look like. Left side commutator with blue in the front, okay? Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take all 3 of these unsolved corners and we're going to twist them to the, let me check my notes, left. Yeah, we're going to twist these to the left. So left, left, and left. Okay? And now I want you to take a look at the cube with red in front. and compare it with the other cube. So you can compare the two of them. Basic starting position on this one, and then this is the one that we just set up a moment ago. You'll notice by looking at them that they look pretty familiar, okay, or pretty similar. The first corner is identical on both of them. The only thing different is the second corner and the third corners, okay? Second corners and third corners are different, okay? They're in the same spot, right? The pieces are in the same location, but they're oriented differently, okay? And let's talk about that for a second. Let's say we wanted to solve this cube, okay? And you can see immediately that I'm going to start off with the red, white, and blue piece, like I always do. It's already oriented properly. We know that it's adjacent to where it belongs. That's the perfect piece to start with. But I can't just do my commutator yet, okay? I'm not able to. And the reason is because the blue sticker that goes here is not in front, is it? No. We need a conjugate to move that blue sticker to the front, like that. From this position now, I'd be able to perform my commutator, moving this piece up here, knowing that when I'm finished with my 8 moves, this blue sticker will wind up here, okay? But let's talk about this second corner for a minute, okay? Let's say I didn't remember to do that commutator. And you might remember I talked about this in a previous video. What would happen if I didn't remember to do that conjugate? What would happen? Well, the first corner would still be fine, but this second corner, even though it would move here, it would not be what? Yeah, it would not be oriented correctly, would it? No. And the same would be true for the third corner, okay? Instead of the blue sticker being here, you can see that the white sticker would wind up here, okay? And that's the whole reason why we use conjugates, to avoid these orientation problems, okay? But there's another thing that's going on here, okay? And here's what it is. When I perform the conjugate on this third corner to bring the blue down to the front, okay, it's going to make this piece oriented correctly when it arrives here, right? The other thing, and you may have already thought about this conjugate isn't just affecting this third corner, it's also affecting this second corner, okay? It's going, let me put this back up. What it's going to do is, instead of this corner moving like that, this corner is going to move like that. It sounds magical, but it's going to move like that, but at the same time, it's also going to be oriented, okay? So it's going to do two things to that corner, okay? It's not just going to move it here. It's also going to fix the orientation of it, okay? So this one conjugate helps fix both of these pieces, okay? Why am I showing this to you? Well, this is going to be an extremely important concept in our next video, or maybe the video after next, I'm not sure yet. But pretty soon, when we start looking at 4 corners, right? Cubes that have 4 unsolved corners. This is going to be an important concept when we get to that, so I wanted to go over it with you now. Okay? So once again, in order to get this piece here correctly, I have to perform that conjugate by bringing down the blue. Okay? And now we can go ahead and solve it. And you'll see that this corner will also be solved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then now I just undo my conjugate. Okay? So let's continue on. I want to now look at a couple more of those situations where you have 2 corners unsolved on the top and 1 on the bottom. Okay? So holding your cube, I want to do 1 commutator on the right side, like that. And then I want to twist a couple corners. So let's twist the first corner to the right. That would be the red, white, and green. Twist that to the right. And let's take this corner and twist that one to the left. Okay? And now we're going to have a situation where I can solve the cube using a conjugate on this piece here. Okay? Right now this piece is not oriented correctly, but you've seen that using a conjugate I can move this white sticker up top. and that would be my conjugate. Okay? And by moving this white sticker up top, I'm also making it so that this corner, red, white, and green, is now adjacent to where it belongs with a left side commutator. Okay? So that's pretty cool. And I could solve this, as you can see, with just that one conjugate, because the white sticker I need here is already in front. So I don't need a second conjugate. So I could solve the cube left side commutator right now. But I'm not going to. Because there's actually a way to solve the cube in this position with no conjugate at all. It's kind of cool. So let's look at these other two corners. We could use this corner, but we're not going to. Let's look at the other two. This second corner I see is adjacent, or I'm sorry, is oriented correctly for the blue side. Blue, blue, right? This third corner is oriented correctly for the red side. Red, red. Okay? Let's start with the blue corner. Could I solve the cube with blue on top? Well, it's adjacent to where it belongs, that corner, so that's good. Oh, but I also need to look at the piece that goes here, which is going to be white. Where is that piece? Oh, it's on the bottom. Now, I could still do it, right? But I'd have to get this white sticker to the orange side, because orange is in front. And here's what it would look like. I'd have to rotate it over and then bring it up to the orange side. Okay? That's kind of a pain, because when I'm done, I'd have to remember to undo all of that. I don't want to do that. So let me put it back. Okay? I'm not going to do it, but I have done it, and it does work. Okay? So worst case scenario, you could solve the cube doing it that way. But there's a much better way. Okay? Remember I said that this blue is oriented correctly, but I also said that this red piece here is oriented correctly for the red side. This is the one we're going to use. And here's why. I can do it with no conjugate at all. Do you see why? This corner is adjacent to where it belongs. And the white sticker that goes here is already where? Right in front. No conjugate. All I have to do is a right side commutator on these three corners, and I'm done. Here's what it looks like. Done. And that's it.